Save 5% more on any of your eShop credit over at SwitchUp.gg simply by buying your eShop credit on SwitchUp.gg. You'll get it back in cashback. Happy days. Hi everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp and to our midweek sale that's 50 to 99.9% off. There are some cracking deals because of Gamescom, which is delightful. Well, I assume it's because of Gamescom. I haven't seen some of these reduced, and to be honest, I haven't seen some of these games before, so I may or may not have made a few purchases. Do not tell my other half. As well as not telling the wife about the recent purchases, you may also notice that my partner in crime, Glen, the other person that's usually here for these videos, is not here. He's on holiday, hopefully relaxing and not thinking about the channel at all. Probably getting to play some of that giant backlog, but I am more than happy to bring you these midweek barshans. Alright, what are the best games on sale? Well, tickle all the buttons, leave your comments down below. Now, let's find out. Let's kick off then with the Mummy Demastered. Oh, and by the way, every single game we're going to talk about is the cheapest it's ever been, or matching that. The Mummy Demastered is a brilliant Metroidvania that has no right to be. It's 65% off at the moment, and as the title suggests, it is within the new universe, but within the more modern versions of, and actually tells a brilliant story and uses the best of pixel art. Now, I know I've been waffling on about it for a while, but I am making my own game. A load of you have already said that you'll help me out with different voice acting parts, which is just incredible. But I've got a few of my backgrounds done now, I've got one of my characters drawn. It's exciting times, so if you like point and click adventures, well, hopefully you'll enjoy the game when it finally gets made. So to be able to pick this one up for about £6.29, no, it's exactly £6.29, or your regional equivalent, which you can see on the screen. Price is courtesy of me awesome daughter who's helping me out today, thank you very much. Well yeah, well worth buying for that price. Then we've got Fury Unleashed, down 90% to £1.79. Yeah, I think this is going to be a bad one for some backlogs, it has to be said. And I think Glen might have reviewed this for us on the channel. You're essentially exploring the pages of a living comic book where the ink is your most valuable resource, and each room is a comic panel. Now, I really don't like it when people just read the blurb, but I haven't actually played this one, but Glen very much enjoyed it, as I say. And it is a roguelite that has what's known as soft permadeath, aka there's meta progression in there. So yeah, it's cool. It looks good. It's got 40 different bosses, and it also has multiplayer, and it's one that hasn't actually made it into a co-op list before. I'm not entirely sure why. We'll have to give this a bash for sure, but at £1.79 until September the 12th, that's absolutely bonkers. Next up, we've got TUROK 1 or 2, depending on which one you want to go for. They're both 75% off at the moment, taking them down to about £3 each. A very good price indeed. This is a classic night dive experience, so you've got the Kex engine, you've got the games running at 60 frames per second. You haven't got any of that ridiculous fog that you had when the game first came out. But let's be honest, if you were there for the Nintendo 64, when you booted up something like TUROK, like we used to look at this and think, this is as good as it gets. Like, this is incredible. Even running at, I think they ran at like 19 frames per second. Even at the time, you were like, wow, this is it's like a cinema-like experience. Now, obviously, times have changed and expectations have certainly moved on, but they're still solid games in terms of gameplay, and using it with gyro, running at 60, especially in handheld, they're lovely games to play, so consider picking those up. The sale for TUROK 1 and 2, 75% off, they go on until August the 18th. Yes, that's the cheapest they've ever been. Then we've got the section that I have called Daedelic Wins. Now, Daedelic use the same engine that I am using for my game, which is very, very cool. And in fact, that's the reason I'm using it. I love their games. I'm like, that's the perfect point and click game. I want it. What engine is it? Yes, please. You know, it only cost me €50. That's an absolute bargain. And it was Switch Corner, actually, who recommended it to me. So nice one, Alex, you absolute G. Anyway, the Daedelic games are 90% off at the moment. Pillars of the Earth, which I loved, a Ken Follett novel game, is 90% off. That one just looks beautiful. I've probably used the artwork for this video. I mean, I might not have done actually, because we've got a few lovely looking games here. But you can pick up a lot of their ones. Things like Deponia, you can get the whole trilogy for like 3 or 4 quid. They've got another bundle of their games, their point and click adventures, that are like 3 quid. So if you're a point and click fan, this is one of the best sales I've seen to pick up their stuff. So I've just called it Daedelic Wins. Go out and buy some of their stuff. Yes, please. Off the back of that, we have Red Faction Gorilla, which is 90% off. I mean, that's a bit silly, isn't it? £2.69. My goodness. It's worth £2.69 just to, you can basically rig everything in this game with explosives and cause absolute wanton carnage. It's worth £2.69 to like rig one of those bridges and watch it come down, and it will collapse onto vehicles. And while this might make me sound like like I've got some serious issues, it's amazing. Like, on a technical level, it's very, very impressive. You won't be finding that in my game. But the core game also has a massive story. Think about like GTA on Mars, and you're kind of close to what you're getting here. There is also a multiplayer mode, but let's be honest, there's no one online. So yeah, for £2.69, it looks good as well. A storyline that, in my opinion, is underrated. So yeah, make your way through it. Enjoy your adventure. For £2.69, you won't feel too guilty about spending it. Tormented Souls has seen another drop. That's down 67% until August the 25th. This is a nice little survival horror game, and we originally did a video for this when it first came out. It did unfortunately have a big bug back then, and they have squashed it, probably with a shotgun or something. But it's now down to its cheapest ever price, £5.60. That's bang on the money for one of those impulse purchases, especially if you're a fan of the genre. Glen enjoyed it, but yeah, that bug at the time did put him off. I know for a fact that's been patched out, and this sale is available in all regions as well, so everyone can enjoy this. The next ludicrous sale we've got is Blade Runner, the enhanced edition of the classic point and click adventure, down 70% to £2.51. Now, you know, I do bang on a little bit about the all patched up series we run on the channel. If you haven't checked it out, why not? You should have done. It's like, it's my most, well, I just love making it. And it's where we revisit games after they've been patched up. Now, I do think that Night Dive, I helped them out a little bit with this one. I did annoy them a little bit as well, because I wouldn't stop banging on about patching it up. But they released a huge patch for this after our initial review and a few messages back and forth, and it improved things immensely. Now, in this version of the enhanced edition, which, fun fact, a couple of the developers basically just wanted this game. I don't think there was the funding, there wasn't the budget, there wasn't the time, but there was certainly the inclination, and they just took it upon themselves to figure it out, because a lot of these games, you didn't have all the material, all the source code, all the raw stuff that you needed to actually bring these up to the modern standard. So they end up having to write their own code and things like that. And I know for a fact this one was very tricky to get working properly. And they even included a version that has anti-alias in, that improves things like that. It looks a bit smoother, and hats off to them. It's not perfect by any means, but it was one of my favorite point and clicks when I was a kid, and it is still very clever in some of its mechanics. For example, you can play through twice and experience completely different events, and also the way it uses its detective side. You're using the machine, I forget the name of it, and looking through clues and zooming in, that old classic where they get a photograph and zoom in 65 times and look at a gnat on the floor, and you'd wonder how on earth that would work. Oh yeah, good times. Anyway, I digress. Blade Runner Enhanced Edition is 70% off until August the 18th. A game that I enjoyed, quite a simple one, it's called Aggelos, or Aggelos. I think it's Aggelos. It's 75% off until August the 25th. It's basically a Wonder Boy clone, and it was a fun time. It's £2.99 at the moment, 75% off. What was quite cool about it was how non-linear it was. And actually, when you think about it, things like Wonder Boy the Dragon's Trap and a few others, they were actually non-linear before their time in a lot of ways. So yeah, these games, and this one specifically, has held up reasonably well. I was waiting for a sequel that doesn't seem to have arrived unless I missed it, but it takes around 9 hours to finish, so it's right on about the right length for my personal tastes for this type of game, and it has a delightful soundtrack. That's Aggelos, 75% off in all regions until August the 25th. Both the Nexamon games are on sale. You can actually buy a double pack for about a tenner. So, you know, if you want to do that, go for it. But Nexamon Extinction is the better game. It's £6.79 at the moment. That's 60% off. I am going to completely change my mind and say, actually, if you haven't got the first one, you should definitely buy them both, because together they're £7.99, and it would just be silly because they're both good games. You might as well have them both. So yeah, either of those, either Extinction on its own or the double pack at 60% off. Well worth it for those prices. Proper old school Pokemon style 16-bit era gameplay. Lovely and enjoyable. We have a review of it on the channel as well, at least one of them I think. And they're also non-linear, which is, again, just adds a little something rather than following the same path, doing the same thing over and over again. That sale goes on until August 25th, and there are physicals of both this and the last game we spoke about actually. The hidden gem this week then, and it might not be hidden to you, but it certainly was to me. I've never seen it before. It's called Strife Veteran Edition, and I pride myself on having played most of the old school shooters, first person shooters from back in the day, but honestly I've never seen this before in my life. They've been hiding this one since October 2020 from me, and it's another Night Dive Studios game. This one, and this is what made it an insta purchase for me, is a first person shooter slash RPG, and I've always wondered why they didn't do this more often, you know, and even in modern times, why don't we have more first person shooter RPGs? I think it's a great combination, or at least on paper. Now this one I found out came out back in 1996, so there was young Walker with his curly centre parting, squeaky voice, too busy playing Age of Empires on the PC. Oh man, I'm not painting a pretty picture, am I? But for £2, £2.24, this has been an easy pickup, and I am very much enjoying myself. It's only single player, so that's something to consider, but for that price, that is a hidden gem in my opinion. That sale goes on until August the 18th. So that's it for this week, or this midweek. We are away at Gamescom next week, which is amazing. First time we've ever been there. Exciting. We'll be making some content out there as well. We'll be eating schnitzels and other German delicacies. I actually had a Savoy today, believe it or not. But this is basically the Savoy list, isn't it? Because they're all nice and cheap. So there we go. Thank you to our Patreons, our members, all of you that enjoy this type of content. And as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!